it's time for me to give up. I feel it's time. Got a picture of you beside me. Got your lipstick mark still on your coffee cup. Oh yeah. Got a fist of pure emotion. Got a head of shattered dreams. Gotta leave it all behind. Whatever I said, whatever I did, I didn't mean it. I just want you back for good. Want you back for good. Yeah, that's music from Gary Barlow, titled Back for Good. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and my wonderful viewers out there. How are you guys doing? I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. This is Desmond Gray from Gallant Integrated Media. And the title of the episode of today is The Moment of Reckoning That Will Always Come. The moment of reckoning that will always come. Before I proceed, please, may I crave your indulgence to appeal to you guys to help us subscribe to this channel. Please do like what we do so that YouTube can recommend it to other viewers. Drop your comment as it will help us to propagate in what we do here. We promise to give you value for your time as we are trying to assemble our panels to be discussing on other issues bordering on relationship, child raising, upbringing of children, life in diaspora, life in your mother countries, investment, business, and all other things. Trust me, we have a whole lot of package. Do subscribe and encourage us in what we do. And we'll be glad if you do so. Thank you so much. So let's get the understanding of what reckoning means as it borders on the episode. Reckoning, that moment that will always come. Reckoning, according to dictionary, is the avenging or punishing of past mistakes or misdeeds. The avenging or punishing of past mistakes or misdeeds. Reckoning also have a figurative point of view, but that's not where we are going to today. So let's look at it from this point. But before we further on, I have extrapolations that I've gathered here, which will help us to navigate through. And I start with number one of those extrapolations. And I quote, "The true conservative is the man who has a real concern for injustice and takes thought against the day of reckoning." End of quote. And this is coming from a one-time American president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I have another quote, which is the number two, and I quote, "There is a higher court than courts of justice, and that is the court of conscience. It supersedes all other courts." End of quote. And this is coming from Mahatma Gandhi. The third extrapolation is what I got from, and I quote, conscience is an open wound. Only the truth can heal. End of quote. And this is from Usman Danfodio. The last but not the least is a quote from a boxer, American boxer, Joe Louis. And his extrapolation says, "You can run, but you cannot hide." You see, with the provocations or provoking stance of these extrapolations, you can agree with me that moment of reckoning will always come. And we'll get to know that as we go through, or as we proceed with the episode, or with the topic, with the title, sorry. So have you found yourself in a situation where you need to be vindicated? A moment where something needs to happen to prove you right. Something needs to happen to confirm that all you have been saying has been the truth. Something needs to
shift. Paradigms and situations and positions need to shift for the world to know that you are right, for people to know that you meant what you said. That's the moment of that's the moment that will always come. That moment that we think or we wouldn't want to see. That moment that we always avoid if we had known that it's gonna come. That moment that the reality will prove its supremacy over infatuation. That moment where we look left, right, and center and have only one thing to say: how did I get to this? Why did I do this? That moment where things of many years begin to haunt our today and tomorrow. That moment a particular lifestyle begins to be a thorn on our flesh. That's a moment that no one will want to encounter. But that moment is one moment that will never fail to come. And that moment is the moment called that moment of reckoning. It will always come. Where you tell a child that he or she needs to read, only for her to put on the light and sleep off. Only for her to use her phone or his phone to watch movies and other social media activities instead of reading. And at the end of the exams, she come back crying. That's the moment of reckoning. That moment where the Minister for Health could not procure all that were meant to be procured for the hospitals in the city or in the country. Equipment for the hospital, medications, and all other facilities. That moment where that same minister fell sick and there was no other place to take him except for those hospitals he ignored. And there could be no reason, and there's no equipment to attend to his case. That's the moment of reckoning. It will always come. That moment where files were opened and something that was hidden now became so open and obvious. That moment that is obvious now that the truth that has no hand, no leg as to walk, or hands as to crawl, or wings as to fly, but we are all thrown into the pit. And that same truth we are seeing coming out. How managed, no one knows. That's the moment of reckoning. You see, one thing, because from the explanation or the definition of reckoning here, we discover that it's a payment, it's a punishment, it's a proceed we receive from what we do, the wrong we did. You see, it's a reward for wrongdoing. But there's one thing about wrongdoing. You see, this wrongdoing has this, it has a way, consciously or unconsciously, of like creating this impression to you or to me that we are entitled or licensed to do wrong. Either because, let's take for instance, a woman in a marriage, because at the end of every month you have some money that you bring to add to the one your husband brings to the running of the family. So based on this money you bring, you now feel that you're entitled to misbehave, to cheat. Or because you're the husband now, you know that your business is booming, you're doing well, or you have a good job, you're doing well, you're footing the family bills and all other financial aspects of running of the family. So based on that, you are licensed to misbehave or to be stupid. That's what wrongdoing can do. Undermining the fact that there is a moment of reckoning. That moment you lie to your wife that you're going for a meeting, only for her to meet you as she was going, looking for what the children will eat. Notice that your car is parked in front of a restaurant. She curiously waited, only to see you few minutes down the line coming out from the restaurant with your girlfriend. Whereas you told her that you're going for a meeting. She now walk up to you and say, honey, is this the meeting you are going to? That's the moment of reckoning. Because wrongdoing has a trajectory. You've been doing this in the past, but that day comes that day that you couldn't escape it. That's the moment of reckoning. It happens to the women against the men or the men against their wives. That's the moment of reckoning. That moment where you gang up. You conspired with other colleagues to lie against a particular colleague at work. That moment you gathered to frustrate a particular individual from a service. That moment you subdued and suppressed a particular person from rising up, only to discover that this person now, years down the line, has to stand as a Messiah on whom you have to kneel to get a succor. That's the moment of reckoning. That moment that staff you frustrated out of your job got appointment to a higher department or a higher ministry or a higher place where your company now comes to look for contract or look for job or look for support, and you happen to be the representative of your organization standing before this same staff of yours whom you frustrated out of job. Of course, you couldn't look at the face of this person. Of course, that moment you'll be humbled. That's the moment of reckoning. It will always come. This looks like a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. If it has not happened to you, watch. There are people that it happens to. That moment where presidents and the head of governments of countries and nations conspire, lie against the nation or lie to the nation, embezzle funds, do all manner of atrocities, thinking that nobody notices. Only for years down the line, files were opened and a lot of things were discovered. That's the moment of reckoning. That moment that a woman goes to the hospital to check the paternity of a child, only for the man to discover that he is not the father of that child. I'm sorry to say this, but I have to say it is part of the program. That's the moment of reckoning. So why are we running this program? So that people will know what you do. Everything we do, everything we dish out there has a consequence. Whether we do good, there's a consequence for the good we do. There's a consequence for the wrong we do. But for consequence, there will always be going to be consequence. And the day we are being confronted with that consequence, the day we are now coming to terms with that consequence, that day the consequence will be staring at our face. We can't look left and right to find a solution or an excuse to give for that. That's the moment of reckoning that will always come. You are diagnosed of a particular sickness coming as a result of a particular lifestyle. That's the moment of reckoning. You were told, or if you were told, you wouldn't have believed that this will happen. That's the moment of reckoning. It happens in so many ways. It comes in so many dimensions and so many times and occasions. But it will always come. So if there is any reason why you could avoid it, if there's any way you can avoid it, please avoid it. Watch the decisions you make, how you go about your decisions, the actions you embark on, and the things you do, the things you are being lured to do, or the things you are being coerced to do. Oftentimes, we see ourselves, misconstruing people unknowingly, or because we wouldn't want them to get to a certain height, or because we don't want a certain favor to come to them. There are times we pay for those things. There's a moment we pay for those things, and that moment will always come. That moment will always come. That moment you lied against your wife because you want a divorce. That moment you lied against your husband because you want a divorce. That moment you tell stories that does not exist because you want to achieve a particular thing. That moment is the moment you need to watch and look carefully how you go about it, because it always gonna come back in a revengeful way, and that's called the moment of reckoning. It will always come. It's not my definition here. That's the definition of dictionary. Punishment for wrongdoing and misdeeds. That's the moment of reckoning. It will always come. You lie against people, defraud people. Some people live this life of fraud. Whatever they get is a proceed of fraud. You keep on defrauding people left, right, and center. Only for you now to feel that you've made it, let you relax and begin to enjoy the fruit of your labor, because that's what you're going to call it. You now see yourself being defrauded. People will definitely pity you, but you know what you're paying, you know the price you're paying, and that's called the moment of reckoning. It will always come. It will always come. That moment you are being caught red-handed with another woman in a hotel room, or with another person's wife in a hotel room. Something you've been doing over the years. Now that day you get you got face to face with the reality. That's the moment of reckoning. It will always come. That moment you think you've hidden the truth because there was no CCTV watching you, there's nobody there to say or to testify to what happened. That moment you lied, do things that you think will never surface. That moment you think you have digged the hole and buried the truth. Only for you to see the truth being exhumed, to stare at your face. That's the moment of reckoning. It will always come. You can't avoid it. Trust me. If you have any reason to run away from it, to avoid it, please do avoid it. It's painful when you are being confronted by that moment of reckoning. It's very painful because this is something you wouldn't want to encounter. This is something that you don't want to play out. Imagine something you did 10 years ago coming to confront you today. You must have preached against it. You must have, it's really, really horrible. That moment of reckoning. It's always going to come. So any chance we have, or any means we have to avoid it, we should. And this will be the best place to leave it for today. Please, thank you for watching. Do subscribe, like I said before, like I picked before. Do subscribe. Click the notification bell and like what we do. Possibly drop your comment, because your comment will help us more to know if we're getting it right or wrong. And that will be all for today. Thank you so much. You will appreciate